Good evening. Seems the voice to text has been pretty popular and being able to follow along. So I am going to continue to use this feature. I'm mostly a lurker on Reddit and don't use alternate accounts to comment, despite what one member keeps claiming. I have had 3 accounts: Showatathunk, Better Camel, and Basic Passage, with some numbers. That said, I've noticed some questions about Danni, tattoo that I mentioned in Wednesday's video. Yes, Danni does have a $sign tattoo on her shoulder. With that cleared up, let's pick up where we left off. When I was helping Danni, it often felt like what I did was never quite enough. There always seemed to be something more she wanted. I was an admin in the niche to profit group 7 days a week. And on top of that, she later asked me to spend 2 or more hours every Friday night helping with her YouTube live sales. Early on, those live auctions took place at Dog Junkies and a few other locations, including during the early days of the good stuff. If I remember correctly, Rebecca was still at Dog Junkies at the time. Rebecca, if you're listening, you'd probably be the best person to clarify what the original agreement was before these live sales began. Some of the things I've always wondered about are whether items were being pulled from the shelves after someone claimed them, whether those items were paid for the same day, and whether Danni was offered any kind of discount to do live sales there as a way to help Dog Junkies. Again, I hope Rebecca can help answer those questions better than anyone. At the time, I honestly didn't think much about whether it was called a claim, want, or bid. Looking back now, it was clearly an auction-style format. What I didn't know then, but learned after doing research within the last year, is that in Nevada, specifically Clark County, an auctioneer's license is required to sell items in that way. Once I realized that, I did ask Danni about having an auctioneer's license, and she told me it was too expensive. At the time all of this was happening, I genuinely didn't know the legal requirements. When Danni was doing live shop the shelves sales, viewers had to email her certain information before they could participate. This included their YouTube username, the PayPal email address she would use to send an invoice, and their zip code. Sending that information registered them to purchase items during the live. Those details went directly to Danni's email. She was the only person who had access to that information, and it wasn't shared with anyone else unless she chose to take screenshots and send them out. Now about the spreadsheets. During the live sales, Melissa and I were responsible for keeping track of what people bid on and matching those bids to their YouTube usernames. To do that, we maintained a spreadsheet so we could track who won which items. For anyone not familiar with spreadsheets, hers included things like the date of the sale, where it was held, item details, which could be especially hard to keep up with during a Shop the Shelves live, the YouTube username, item price, winning bid amount, shipping cost. Once Danni calculated it, notes, whether the PayPal invoice was sent, whether it was paid, and finally whether the item had shipped. All of this information was stored. That's why the nickname Suzza Spreadsheet came about. She was working overtime then, and I'm sure she still is today. I'll be sharing proof of how many images and folders she had that were shared with me. I had a question come up in the comments on my last YouTube video that I want to address. Back in June 2021, I did know that Danni had filed for bankruptcy. However, I was told at the time that it was done to close out a chapter related to her divorce, and that's all the context I had. I also want to clarify that I did not know who Danni was until September 2023, when I asked Danni directly who she was. That question was never clearly answered. Later on, I came across a post on a gossip bakery forum that was labeled as if it came from HV. When I brought it up, Danni immediately suggested that it must have been Danni, even though, at that point, I still didn't actually know who Danni was. Now that we've covered the spreadsheet topic and how that worked, I'm going to fast forward to March 2023, when Rebecca left the Good Stuff thrift store. This is where I'll be adding a screenshot showing when I was notified that she left, along with when Danni later began revisiting and rehashing Rebecca's departure. I wanted to be clear on exactly what was being said about her. After speaking directly with Rebecca, whose story has remained consistent from day one, and who has always been kind, friendly, and respectful, she explained what happened that day. Danni took a long time to get out of her vehicle, and Rebecca was ready to leave as soon as she could. Rebecca did acknowledge that she handed the keys to a man because Danni was still on the phone and not getting out of her car. Rebecca has been clear that she did not leave the property until she personally watched that man place the keys directly into Danni's hand. I have no doubt that this is the truth, even though Danni has a different version of events. Rebecca later made a post on the GSDS page, which I understand she owned and had every right to use. She shared her perspective on why she left, did not allow the conversation to spiral out of control, and remained respectful throughout. From there, things played out very differently. I believe Danni contacted Melissa, also known as Suzza Spreadsheets, who also kept screenshots. I'll be showing the folders of screenshots that were kept by Melissa, including the number of files in each Google folder, as well as a video of me scrolling through them fairly quickly. I don't have the time to blur every face and remove every username from Facebook, Reddit, and comment screenshots, so the scroll through will reflect that. There is more regarding Rebecca that I'll be sharing later. Some individuals and situations will need to be addressed in their own separate videos, simply because it becomes hard to follow when jumping back and forth between names and events that span from March 2023 through mid-August 2025. Even as late as August 2025, Danni has continued to insist that Rebecca was the ringleader behind MBM and the departures of Sunny and Curry. This has been a slow process, removing names and faces and carefully reviewing A 4.5 year timeline takes time, but accuracy and fairness matter